Hey there, welcome back to Viewpoint Christian Academy for another Monday Moments. I'm Dr. Adam Rondeau, Director of Viewpoint Christian Academy. It's my privilege to be able to spend a few moments today and talk with you about some things going on in education today, specifically with the idea that we need Christian education so much more. Today, in our Monday Moments, we're going to discuss two really big issues that will be confronted in the fall, particularly in regards to Massachusetts, but that are actually nationwide in their scope. Stay tuned. There are two big issues that are facing education in the coming fall, and two really big issues that mean two big reasons why we need more Christian education. Homeschools and Christian schools and co-ops and all these different things popping up all over the place because the need is so great right now for good, godly Christian education. You'll remember in a previous Monday Moments episode, we discussed the idea that the world is coming for your kids. They are. They are coming for your children's minds and hearts, and they want to win their emotions. Viewpoint's not coming for your children, but we're here for your family. So we want to help encourage you and inspire you in the areas of Christian education. But let's talk about the two big issues. Number one, here in the state of Massachusetts anyways, I know that this is happening in other states as well, but number one, there is a movement in the state legislature right now to remove to adjust the laws governing vaccinations and to remove the religious exemption as a reason why you do not have to be vaccinated. Now, if you remove the religious exemption, what happens? Well, we have seen this happen in states already. New York State, Connecticut State, recently, just back in April, did this. New York did this, I believe, a few years ago. And Maine as well, back in 2020, just last year, made some adjustments and some changes and has now removed the religious exemptions for getting vaccinations. Now, I know from speaking from fellow educators in the state of Maine that this applies to students that are attending both public and private schools. Now, how that will look as far as it goes here in our state, I don't know exactly in the state of Massachusetts how that would look, but it is problematic. It has already happened in the state of Connecticut. But what does it mean? Well, we really haven't seen huge implications as of yet from when these laws were passed, etc. However, we live in a different time, and there is a different feel in the air right now in regards to the mandating of vaccinations, particularly the COVID vaccination. Showing papers, COVID vaccination proof, even if you're going to the doctors, they're asking you if you have a vaccination card, bring it so we can scan it, keep it on file. So there is a movement, there's a sense in the air, a feeling in the nation that the mandating of vaccines particularly the COVID vaccine, may become an issue front and center that we will have to deal with. Now, why is that a problem? Why would we even worry about that? Well, there's a couple of things. Why would there need to be exemptions? Well, I believe that there's two very valid reasons for exemptions, and I believe that there are two very valid reasons for the religious exemption. Now, I'm not anti-science. I love science. I'm not anti-immunology. I believe in the science of immunology, and I understand how immunization works naturally and also through vaccination. I understand how they work, and I am not anti-science, but I'm a little cautious in regards to vaccines for a couple of reasons. Let me share with you the two reasons why removing a vaccination exemption is a little bit problematic. Number one, I think it's a parents' rights issue. It's a parents' rights issue. Parents have the right to decide what shots their children do or do not get. And for the state to remove that parent's right and say, no, you must inject your child for whatever reason in this regards, that's, to me, is problematic. Whether you agree with vaccines or disagree with vaccines, whether you're anti-vax or vaccine cautious, or you're all for it, let's get the whole world vaccinated, it doesn't matter. This really is a parents' rights issue. And it is so important for us not to concede. Now, listen, it doesn't take a state, it doesn't take a village. I know there was a popular book and a popular saying, right? It takes a village to raise a child. Well, God didn't give the child to the village. God didn't give the child to the state. God didn't give the child to the country. God gave the child to the parents and gave the parents the authority and the responsibility for raising that child. So should a parent have the right to say, no, I do not want this child to get vaccinated? Yes, they absolutely should. So to me, that is a problem. The fact that there is an infringement upon parent rights, whether you agree or disagree with vaccines. Now, some people are like, well, but it's going to affect other people. Well, look, if one person says I want vaccines, and the other person says I don't want vaccines, it doesn't make sense to say that if they say I'm going to get my vaccine and you're not going to get a vaccine, so that's going to make me sick. Well, wait a minute. I thought the idea of a vaccine that it would protect you against the sickness. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Now, I'm sure that there are arguments out there that say it can affect this. If too many people don't get the vaccine and this, that, and the other thing, there's breakthrough cases and everything. I understand. I know I'm not trying to oversimplify this. But at the same time, we do need to keep things a little bit simple. We do need to understand either they work or they don't work, right? And so to persecute a parent, and I use that word intentionally, and say you must give your child a vaccine because I'm giving my child a vaccine and therefore I don't want, that's a little bit problematic. The logic on that isn't quite perfectly flowing. And so we need to stand up for parents' rights. And so I think this is a problem, number one, because of parents' rights. Number two, why is this a problem? Because if you remove the religious objection, the problem is that there are legitimate moral objections to some vaccines. What do you mean by that? Well, I don't have time to go into this. I would encourage you to research it and check it out. But aborted fetuses are utilized in the development as well as the testing of just about every vaccine that is out there. For instance, let's take the COVID vaccines. It's well known, well documented that the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, the single shot dose, is produced utilizing cultures from an aborted fetus. And that's just the way it is. Yes, there is an aborted fetus involved in the production of that shot that people are getting injected into their arms, as is the case with many other vaccines. That, for many, is problematic. It is for me. And so whether it is for you or not, I know that there are two sides to that equation as to whether or not, how that should work. But for me, I find that problematic. Additionally, even though they are not used in the production of the vaccine, the other vaccines, the major ones, Pfizer, Moderna, etc., did use aborted fetuses or lines of aborted fetuses in the testing of the vaccine, the testing stages. Even though it's not included in the vaccine, in the injection, it was utilized in the testing. And some people find that objectionable, and they would take ethical objection to the use of an aborted, and I completely understand that. Should we allow the exemption for people who have a moral objection to that? Why not? Aren't we in America? Don't we have religious freedom? So this is an issue that is facing us as well, and in our state. And the attendance, back in January, there was a big to-do because here in the state of Massachusetts, any child in any public or private school was going to be required to have the flu shot, no matter what, if they were going to go to school. They backed off from that and they removed the requirement from that. But again, the trajectory, the handwriting on the wall is that this is the direction that we're going. So this is a parents' rights issue. It's just something to be thinking about. Is homeschooling a better option for you if this is a problem? It may end up being so in that case, or other things, or there may be a private school, but typically the law itself would apply to private schools as well. So there are factors that you're going to have to think about as you go forward, and think about what's going to happen in the fall, what's going to happen in the winter in this regards. So that's a big issue. And again, like I said, it's being debated in the House. However, it does really seem as though it's probably going to become, it's going to pass. And the religious exemptions for vaccines will be removed in our state. Number two, what is the other big concern? Comprehensive sexuality education. We keep talking about CSE, Comprehensive Sexuality Education. So there are two bills in the Massachusetts state legislature right now. Massachusetts Family Institute has put out a really nice brief on this. I would highly recommend that you check it out. But there are two laws, a House Bill 673 and a Senate Bill 318 right now that are being debated and being worked on. and we need to do two things about it. And we'll get to those two things in a minute. But it is called the it's in regards to the health curriculum framework. Health curriculum framework really typically is code word for this has to do a lot with sexual education. Now, it's not the only thing that's covered in the health curriculum framework. Obviously, they do other things, but comprehensive sexuality education is going to be one of the things involved in here. And if you hear my neighbor mowing the lawn, I apologize. But the Massachusetts legislature is considering mandating controversial sex education framework for public schools around the state. What would that include? Well, number one, it would eliminate local rights. It would remove the framework and the establishment of the framework for health education, health curriculums from the local district, and the state would mandate the framework or the requirements of the things that need to be done. At the Department of Secondary Education, Elementary and Secondary Education, DESE, D-E-S-E, is what it's called in the state of Massachusetts. So, and it would ensure compliance with the frameworks. So let's talk about some of these things that are included in that. There would be some very graphic sexual content. House Bill 410 and Senate Bill 263 that is also going on mandates instruction on several topics that the average parent or school committee members would find objectionable. And I would find them objectionable, including covering the required topics of how to teach a student, even in the 11 to 14-year-old range, how to approve of sexual activity or consent to sex. This is a big deal. And some of the things that they teach them are just very inappropriate, and much of the curriculum and framework that would be provided tends to be, I would say, pornographic. It is pornographic. And it's very concerning. Children ages 5 to 10 would be taught, different sexual orientations, gender identities, gender expressions. Alternate families would be approved of and demonstrated and taught, same-sex, bisexual groupings, etc. Do we want kindergartners to be instructed by the, by the rainbow unicorn that teaches children about, gender, transgenderism, homosexuality, all of these different things? No, they don't really need that. Why would you expose children at such a young age to these things? Well, obviously there is an agenda of the world, and there's an agenda from Satan himself to sexualize our children. They are doing everything within their power, not only in schools, but the media at large is really working at this. And, again, they would be taught things, moral acceptance of alternative lifestyles. Essentially, what are they going to be taught? Everything that goes against the scriptures. It is a completely pagan and demonic, secularist world view that will be communicated. So what do you do? Well, number one, go ahead and call. Here's your two things you can do. Go ahead and call your reps. But listen, the writing on the wall is there. It's coming. It's coming. It is no longer a viable option to keep Christian kids in the public school setting. If you want your child to be trained in the ways of the Lord, if you're taking that responsibility seriously, it's time for a mass exodus from the public schools. Do not, and a lot of parents are like, I have no choices. There are choices. There are options. Others are like, well, I want them to stay and be an influence and have an impact. Don't conflate influence with discipleship. God does want us to impact and influence the world, but He also wants us to consciously make disciples. There's a difference between influence and impact and discipleship. You can have both done the right way. You don't have to sacrifice discipleship by giving your child a false education, a false worldview education, so that they can have an impact and influence. You can have both. Don't make it an either-or argument. That is a logical fallacy that we do not need to fall into. So let me encourage you with this today. Yes, the need is great. Yes, things are pretty crazy out there. But, we do not have to give in and surrender to what the world is teaching us. We can take charge of our children and we can provide them a good godly education. Yes, it requires sacrifice. Yes, it requires a lot of work, but we can do it. It can be done. Reach out to us if you'd like help. Talk to your pastor. Let's get the ball rolling. Let's get these things done. And again, just a reminder, you need to tell your local representatives to vote no on HB 673 and SB 318 on health curriculum frameworks. If you want more information about it, go to Massachusetts Family Institute, mafamily.org, and check out this briefing on it. Really good stuff. Let's take some action. The biggest action, the best action we can get is to remove our kids from this toxic, unhealthy, unsafe environment. God bless you. Have a great day. Take care.